welcome back to our channel MediBees. This is me Sinta Sujo. First of all, wishing each one of you a prosperous year ahead. Have a joyous 2022. So today we are going to study together from Guyton and Hall's textbook of Medical Physiology 12th edition, and we are dealing the first chapter from the first unit, and that's functional organization of human body and the control of internal environment.
And the first chapter is functional organization of the human body and the control of internal environment. Throughout this chapter, we can find cell as the living units of the body, extracellular fluid, the internal environment, homeostatic mechanisms of the major functional systems, and also the control systems of the body. To begin with the physiology, the word physiology is originated from a Greek word, physis meaning nature or origin, and logia meaning study of. Claude Bernard is considered to be the father of physiology. And what does this physiology actually means? It is the study of functions and mechanisms in living systems. Moving to human physiology, it is actually the study of how human body works from molecules in the cell to working of organs. It explains the characteristics and mechanisms of human body that makes it a living being. So today's chapter is functional organization of human body and the control of internal environment. And throughout this chapter, we can find the overall organization of body and the operation of body parts. To begin with, cell as the living units of body. We all do know that the basic living unit of the body is cell. Each cells do have different functions, and organs are the collection of these different cells held together by intercellular supporting structures. These cells do have certain similar functions like oxygen, reacting with carbohydrates, fat and protein to release energy for cell function, and almost all the cells can reproduce additional cells. The extracellular fluid, the internal environment. Our human body is actually composed of 60% of fluid, and the fluids are categorized into intracellular and extracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid is actually found inside the cell, and extracellular is found in the space outside the cell, and it comprises of 1/3 of the entire fluid in the body. The extracellular fluid is in a constant motion throughout the body. So it is in constant motion, and it is transported in the circulating blood, then mixed between the blood and tissue fluid by diffusion through the capillary walls. Thus, all the cells live in the same environment, and that is the extracellular fluid. Therefore, extracellular fluid is known as the internal environment of the body. Now let's look on to the difference between extracellular and intracellular fluids. The extracellular fluids contains large amount of sodium, chloride and bicarbonate ions plus nutrients for the cell, while the intracellular fluid mainly contains potassium, magnesium and phosphate ions. Now we can look on to the homeostatic mechanisms of major functional system. What does this homeostasis means? It is actually the maintenance of nearly constant conditions in internal environment, and almost all the organs and tissues help us to maintain these constant conditions. Here we can see how the different organs or the functional systems actually maintain this homeostasis. First, we can see the extracellular fluid transport and mixing system by the blood circulatory system. The extracellular fluid is actually transported by two stages. The first stage is movement of blood through body in blood vessels. The second stage is movement of fluid between the blood capillaries and the intercellular space between tissues. The extracellular fluid passes through the blood capillaries between plasma of the blood and interstitial fluid filling intercellular space. The walls of the capillaries are actually permeable to most of the molecules in plasma of the blood except the plasma protein because of the large size. Therefore, the fluid and dissolved constituents diffuse back and forth between the blood and tissue space. That is, they are constantly moving and bouncing in all directions, and that is said to be the diffusion. the extracellular fluid everywhere in the body, plasma, and that of interstitial fluid is continually being mixed, thus maintaining homogeneity of extracellular fluid throughout the body. Coming to the origin of nutrients in extracellular fluid, about the respiratory system. Each time the blood passes through body, it also flows through lungs. The blood picks oxygen in the alveoli, acquiring oxygen needed by the cell. The membrane between alveoli and lumen of the pulmonary capillaries, alveolar membrane, is only 0.4 to 2.0 micrometers thick. So the oxygen rapidly diffuses by molecular motion through membrane into the blood. The gastrointestinal tract. Blood pumped by heart also passes through walls of the gastrointestinal tract. Here, the dissolved nutrients, carbohydrates, fatty acids and amino acids are absorbed from ingested food into the extracellular fluid of the blood. Liver and other organs that perform primarily the metabolic functions. The liver changes the chemical composition of many substances to usable forms, and other tissues of the body like the fat cells, gastrointestinal mucosa, kidneys and endocrine glands help to modify absorbed substances or store them until they are needed. The liver also eliminates certain waste products in the body and toxic substances that are ingested. The musculoskeletal system actually helps in motility to obtain food for nutrition for protection against adverse surroundings. Removal of metabolic end products. The removal of carbon dioxide by lungs. When the blood picks oxygen in the lungs, CO2 is released from blood into the lung alveoli. We know that carbon dioxide is one of the most abundant end product of metabolism. Now we can see how kidneys remove the metabolic end products. When the blood passes through kidney, it removes some of the substances beside carbon dioxide that are not needed by the cells. These substances include the end products of cellular metabolism like urea, and uric acid also includes excess of ions and water from food accumulated in the extracellular fluid. So the kidney first filter large quantity of plasma through glomeruli into the tubules, then reabsorption into blood substances needed by the body like glucose, amino acids, appropriate amount of water and many ions. Other substances, especially the metabolic end products like urea, are poorly reabsorbed and it passes through the renal tubules into the urine. Coming to gastrointestinal tract, the undigested material and waste products of the metabolism is eliminated in the feces, and this is how gastrointestinal tract removes the metabolic end products. The liver. The function of the liver is detoxification or removal of ingested drugs and chemicals. It secretes these waste into bile and it is eliminated through the feces. Next, we can look on to the regulation of body functions. The first one is regulation of body functions by nervous system. The nervous system is actually divided into three parts: the sensory input portion, central nervous system, and also the major output portion. Sensory receptors or the sensory input portion help us to detect the state of the body or surroundings. For example, the receptors in the skin help us to feel the sense of touch. Coming to the central nervous system or the integrative portion, it actually comprises of brain and the spinal cord. The function of the brain is to store information, generate thoughts, create ambition, determine reaction that body perform in response to sensations. The signals are actually transmitted through motor output portion of nervous system to carry desires. Then coming to autonomic system, it is an important segment of nervous system that operates at subconscious level and controls many functions of internal organs including pumping activity by heart, movement of gastrointestinal tract, etc. Next, we can look on to the hormone system. The body has 8 major endocrine glands that secrete a chemical substance called hormones. The hormones are responsible for regulating the cellular functions. For example, thyroid hormone is responsible for increasing the rate of chemical reactions. Insulin helps to control glucose metabolism, etc. So we have seen that the nervous system regulates muscular and secretory activities of the body, and hormonal system regulates metabolic functions. Coming to the protection of the body, it is done by the immune system. The immune system consists of white blood cells, tissue cells derived from WBC, thymus, lymph nodes, lymph vessels that protects the body from bacteria, virus, parasites and fungi. The immune system actually provides a mechanism for the body to distinguish own cells from foreign cells and substances, and also it destroys the invader by phagocytosis or by producing sensitized lymphocytes or specialized proteins called antibodies, either to destroy or neutralize the invader. The integumentary system. The skin and various appendages including hair, nail, glands and other structures cover and protect deeper tissues and organs of the body and provides a boundary between body's internal environment and outside world. The integumentary system is important for temperature regulation and excretion of waste. We know that skin is the largest organ of the body and it comprises of 12 to 15% of the total body weight. Then reproduction. Reproduction is not considered a homeostatic function, but it helps to maintain the homeostasis by generating new beings to maintain the automaticity and continuity of life. Moving on to control systems of the body, we can say that many control systems operate within organs to control functions of individual parts of organs. Others operate throughout entire body to control interrelationship between organs. For example, the respiratory system operates in association with nervous system to regulate concentration of carbon dioxide in extracellular fluid. The liver and pancreas regulates the concentration of glucose in extracellular fluid, etc. Examples of control mechanisms: the regulation of oxygen and carbon dioxide concentration in extracellular fluid. The oxygen is a major substance for chemical reaction in the cell. Hemoglobin combines with oxygen as blood passes through the lungs. As blood passes through tissue capillaries, the hemoglobin, because of strong chemical affinity for oxygen, does not release oxygen into tissue fluid if too much oxygen is already there. If oxygen concentration is low, oxygen is released to re-establish the adequate concentration. Thus, regulation of oxygen concentration in tissues is vested principally in the chemical characteristics of hemoglobin itself. This is the oxygen buffering function of hemoglobin. Carbon dioxide is a major end product of oxidative reaction in cells. If the carbon dioxide formed in cells accumulates in tissue fluid, energy-giving reactions of the cell will stop. Higher than normal carbon dioxide concentration in blood excite the respiratory center, causing the person to breathe rapidly and deeply. This increases the expiration of carbon dioxide and removes excess carbon dioxide from blood and tissue fluids. The regulation of arterial blood pressure. We can look on to baroreceptor system among several systems regulating the arterial blood pressure. Baroreceptor system. In the walls of bifurcation region of carotid artery in the neck. Actually, bifurcation is the point or area at which something divides to two branches, and the carotid bifurcation is the point at which common carotid artery terminates. So, in the walls of bifurcation region of carotid artery in the neck, also in the arch of aorta in thorax, Many nerve receptors called baroreceptors, which are stimulated by the stretch of arterial wall. When arterial pressure rises too high, the baroreceptors send barrages or continuous firing of nerve impulses to medulla of the brain. Here, the impulse inhibit vasomotor center, it's a portion of medulla oblongata, that decrease number of impulses transmitted from vasomotor center through sympathetic nervous system that prepares the body for fight and flight. So through the sympathetic nervous system to heart and blood vessels, the lack of impulse causes diminished pumping activity by heart. Also dilation or enlargement of peripheral blood vessels, that is the blood vessels away from the center, allows increasing blood flow through the vessels. Both these effects decreases the arterial pressure back towards normal. Coming to normal range and physical characteristics of important extracellular fluid constituents. I have displayed a table in this slide and we can see some of the important extracellular fluid constituents and their normal ranges. The value outside these ranges are caused by different kinds of illnesses. Characteristics of control systems. The negative feedback nature of most control systems. Most of the control systems of the body act by negative feedback. We can understand this by looking back where we have explained about the control mechanisms. The regulation of carbon dioxide concentration. High concentration of carbon dioxide in extracellular fluid increases the pulmonary ventilation. This decreases extracellular fluid carbon dioxide concentration because lungs expire great amount of carbon dioxide from the body. That is, high concentration of carbon dioxide initiates events that decrease the concentration towards normal, that is negative to initiating stimulus. Similarly, if carbon dioxide concentration falls too low, it causes feedback to increase the concentration. This response is negative to initiating stimulus. When coming to arterial pressure regulating mechanism, high pressure causes the reactions that promote lowered pressure. Low pressure causes reactions that promote elevated pressure. Both causes these effects are negative with respect to stimulus. That is, if some factors become excess or deficient, the control systems initiates negative feedback that return factor towards a certain mean value, maintaining the homeostasis. The gain of a control system. The degree of effectiveness with which a control system maintains constant conditions is determined by gain of negative feedback. The gain of a system is calculated by the formula gain equals correction divided by error. The correction value is the difference between final value after correction and the change before correction. The error is difference between final corrected value and original starting point. If the error is very low, then the gain is high. Higher gain means effectiveness of system is higher. Positive feedback can sometimes cause vicious cycles and even death. So, the positive feedback does not lead to stability, but to instability, and in some cases it can cause death. For example, unwanted clot formation that could block the entire artery is an example of negative impact of positive feedback. The positive feedback also has some positive side, which includes childbirth and also generation of nerve impulses. That is why the positive feedback is also known as a vicious cycle. Just for an information, a healthy human being pumps about 5 liters of blood per minute. So I think we have covered some of the major portions from this chapter.
End of our chapter. So I hope you guys understood the concept behind this chapter. You can mention your doubts in the comment section, and also you can mention which all kinds of topics you would like to see from us. Subscribe the channel for more videos, like it and share it to your friends if you see it's useful. This is our search towards infinity and beyond. Thank you so much.